Exorcist explains how to spot a demon inside someone.
Can you just restate what the qualities are that you see in people that are compatible with demons? Just like to remember to avoid these things. What are they?
Well, it's basically people that, and this is actually some of the secondary signs of possession. It's people who have a tendency towards mendacity,
Lying.
lying all the time, duplicitous. I've made this comment even publicly about certain politicians. You can tell that these people are in cahoots with the devil because of the fact that every single thing they do maximizes damage within their capacity to do so. You get around yeah, you do. You get around people that are like that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I know them.
Even though they might have a veneer of respectability, they're in a position of authority, and they kind of conduct themselves a certain way. Everything they do. First noticed
and they
this.
don't show any, like a normal, I lie, I have lied, I hate lying, but I have done it. But when I do it, or I think most people when they lie, you kind of twitch a little bit. You don't want to lie.
Yeah.
It's the people who register no concern at all about
That's
lying.
right. No
that
remorse.
is a sign.
Yes.
Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's that psychological compatibility. Or people that are willing to just sacrifice other people for the sake of them getting even some of the most modest of gains, where and so the demons will they'll be happy to kill a bunch of unborn children in order to empower themselves in relationship to, say one particular politician or another. They're more than happy to do so.
Wow.
The other third sign of preternatural signs, so one is things that are beyond human capacity, which I mentioned, speaking foreign languages, but the other one is occult knowledge. And that's in two forms. So I mentioned it earlier, we mentioned it a little bit earlier about this woman who was making theological distinctions. The demon was making theological distinctions. This is a form of knowledge that this woman didn't have. But the other form of occult knowledge is they can know what's going on in the other room. Because as I mentioned, it's all being infused in them as it happens, as it occurs. Because that's how they're designed to know things. That's how God made them to know things. He just infuses them as it happens. So they'll actually know like what you ate for breakfast this morning, or they'll know things about your past history. One of the things that you'll see from time to time is that they actually know your sinful history. And so if you go into a session, and because we see this from time to time, if one of our assistants has that there's some sin that they haven't confessed, then what happens is the demon knows that, and because as far as the demon is concerned, is if you don't confess your sins, then basically their attitude is, well, then I still have power over you, because you're still under me. It's once you confess your sin,
true.
Yeah, then it's absolved, and then boom. And so as a result of that, they know that, and so you'll start the session, and all the demons will point out, hey, this guy over here, he did X, Y, Z this morning, and this person didn't even see that guy until the session started. So they'll have occult knowledge on those particular kinds of things, and so those are kind of the indicators that, like, okay, I'm not dealing with somebody who's that this isn't a psychological issue. This is natural. Now, one of the things that people often ask is, well, what about levitation? Is that a preternatural sign? Yes and no. Because there has been cases of like there was a saint in the Catholic Church who would actually levitate when he'd said Mass, right? And so and he was a very saintly man. They even did exorcisms over things. Maybe the guy's possessed and nothing, So,
well, the Pharisees accused Jesus of being possessed.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And then. But then you can also have levitation occur in an infested building, which is not too common. So people will be in bed and all of a sudden, boom, they feel themselves getting dragged out or pulled up or lifted up off their bed and that type of thing. People have seen that. That's very rare, but as exorcists, we hear about that from time to time. And so that doesn't necessarily mean the person's possessed. Plus, all the people that are possessed, not everybody levitates when they're possessed. Some do, some don't. And so levitation is just not that common, but you see it from time to time. And so it's not a necessary sign that the person's possessed. But if you see a bunch of secondary signs, around the person, and you're dealing with them, and then you start praying over them, and then the demon morphs or changes shape and levitates, well, then okay, that's something that's preternatural.
There's a scene in the Gospels in Mark where a man brings his demon-possessed boy who's hurting himself, throwing himself into fires, having seizures, right. And the apostles are unable to exorcise the demon.
That's
and
right.
Jesus walks up and kind of scolds them and then does so. And they say, why were you able to do it and we weren't? And he says, because this kind of demon can only be exorcised through prayer and fasting. What does that mean?
Well, it means that how you get a demon out of somebody varies. So Christ said, by my name you will cast out demons. What he did not say is, by my name you will cast out all demons. And the way we know that is precisely this scene in the Gospels, where they were using his name, but it wasn't having the effect. And so they actually have to do prayer and fasting. And basically what that means is the prayer is to petition God enough, intercessory prayer, praying to him, asking him to do enough prayers so that the person will actually be liberated. This is one of the reasons why we actually have people praying, like the assistants during the sessions and outside of sessions. We have people that will spend hours praying for the person's liberation so that we get that done. The other part is through fasting. Now, the fasting goes back to St. Paul, where St. Paul says, bring your body under subjection, right? So you have to fast in order to get your lower faculties under control to some degree. And by doing that, it's a meritorious work which God will actually, and you can offer that so that this person will actually become liberated in the process. The other reason, as an exorcist, so I fast 6 days a week when I'm in session, and the reason for that.
What does that mean?
It means having one moderate meal in the evening. That's it, each day. So I have nothing for breakfast, nothing for lunch, and then I have a moderate meal at night, and I do that for 6 days. And part of that is just to because when we become when we get our body under subjection, two things occur. One, demons don't want to get involved with you, because if they attack you and try and suggest something to you that's contrary to that subjection, you're going to reject it outright. So they're going to get defeated very easily. And you're going to be...
That's interesting, because I literally just went on a 7-day fast last month, and that was my first time going on a fast. And quite similar to what this guy is saying, I would only have one meal a day around 6, 7 p.m., and that was it. And after I finished my fast, after that 7 days, boy, I felt so good. I felt like my organs were restarting. I felt lighter. So that's interesting.
And by that, you're also developing virtues. You're empowered to be able to kick them out much more easily. When we're weak, they can take advantage of us. But the other part about it is that, and you've probably noticed this even with yourself, is you start to grow in virtue and you start saying, I got to get this part of my life straightened out. You become much more sensitive in that area that you've cleaned up. So, for example, people who stop using profanity all of a sudden in vulgarities, all of a sudden when they hear it, it jars them, right? Well, it's the same thing in relationship to demons. So as you fast, if the demons attack you, you're much more sensitive to it, and so that disorder, because you've got it under your body's now rightly ordered, and so as a result, you quickly detect them, and then so they don't want to attack you. So in addition to they don't want to attack you, but also you have a certain amount of protection, but also you can offer that fasting up so that this person is actually liberated. The people that are possessed sometimes will also need to fast, given the nature of the demon that they're dealing with. They need to fast in order to break the possession.
Well, you probably heard a lot about the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, Bibi, on this show and elsewhere. He's the guy who's always at the White House working to suck the United States into some war of conquest on behalf of his country. But what you may not know is that the charges against Netanyahu are real. Corruption charges. They tell you a lot about him. What exactly do you know about this man who's apparently in charge of the United States? Well, we are now streaming The Bibi Files. It's a documentary that pulls back the curtain on Benjamin Netanyahu. This film traces the rise of the longest-serving prime minister in the history of Israel and the corruption cases surrounding him. Hear from former staff and Israeli insiders describing what Benjamin Netanyahu is really like, and see leaked interrogation footage from his corruption investigations. Video that you were not meant to see and that they definitely don't want you to see. The Bibi Files, it offers a rare look inside Israel's power structure and the man whose decisions have once again drawn our country into another war, a big war. You can stream it now only at tuckercarlson.com.
There it is, y'all. Wow. Exorcist breaks down how to spot a demon in someone. Me personally, I know somebody that was possessed by a demon. Actually, a childhood friend of mine. We used to be really cool back in elementary school. We were tight back in 3rd, 4th grade, right? And I didn't see him for a long time. And then when I got to high school around my freshman, sophomore year, I actually ran into him on the bus, on the 81 Lawrence bus for all my Chicagoans out there. I was on the 81 Lawrence bus. I ran into him. And when I first seen him, I was happy to see him because I haven't seen him since we were kids. But it was just something that was kind of weird about him. It was this dark energy that he had that was completely different from how he was when he was a kid. And I remember like, bro, like, you good? What happened? So we start back talking again, and eventually one day he just told me straight up, he was like, hey, bro, I got possessed by a demon. And I was like, what? He was like, listen to me, I got possessed by a demon. And he was explaining to me how his mother had to hire a pastor, or I guess an exorcist, to come to his house and actually perform an exorcism, because that's how serious it was. And I was like, oh, shit. So that's when I realized that this demon possession shit is real, or like it's got to be something, because I'm telling you, this guy's energy was totally different from how it was when we were kids. It was just something to him. It was a dark energy. You could feel it. And he even said it himself. He said that he was possessed. He used to be possessed by a demon, but it kind of seemed like to me that whatever demon that he was referring to has not left, because it was still there. What do you guys feel about demon possessions, or about this video in general? Make sure that you comment on this video. Let me know. There's some interesting stuff, man. Subscribe to the channel. Click the post notification bell. We got more topics, more crazy topics, more topics about pop culture, hip hop, life, music, anything. You know what I'm saying? I just like to really give you guys genuine conversation that's not rehearsed. And that's what we do on this channel, right? Appreciate y'all. Read your Bible. Yeah, man, stay safe out there. Love.